I'll start by introducing the panel, and to my extreme left we have Reverend Timothy Njoya, who many of us do remember what happened to him, and I'll give you a refresher just in case you don't. Good morning, and thank you for joining us, Reverend.
Good morning, Mr. Itonga.
Yes, and thank you for waking up so early on Mashujaa Day. Many people I know today would probably rather sleep a little bit longer than usual, but thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
All right. We also have Dr. Dan Gekonyo, who is a leading doctor in this country. He's also a cardiologist and the director and founder of Current Hospital. Dr. Dan Gekonyo, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for inviting us.
All right. Now, just to set the pace, many of us, I'm sure, do remember that clip that has been played again and again where Reverend Timothy Njoya was literally beaten to a pulp and probably left for dead. But we thank God that today he lived to tell the story. And that's one of the stories that we'd like to unfold and find out. When we talk about the second liberation, as a country, are we proud with where we are? When we have men and women that literally put their lives on the line, are we proud with where we are? We are approaching the 2017 general election, and we remember what happened in 2007, 2008, and looking at where we are today. Basically, we'd just like to have that conversation, and you're welcome to join us on that. We'll open up the phone lines, and would also like to hear what you have to say. But for now,
I find Mashujaa because, to me, at that time, when Kenyatta and Kimathi or others were being made heroes, the concept was those who fought for a cause. The word, those who fought for a cause. And for a common good. Those two words. They fought for a cause and for a common good. And they fought, they were pursuing the good for all at their own risk. So they were selfless. So a heroine or hero, Shujaa must be selfless. Now, if you run for Olympic, which we have included now in heroes, and you win a gold medal, you win the 10, you are 10 times a hero or heroine. And then you can even, if you make so much money, you get used to wanting money, you want to go to Qatar, leave Kenya, change your Christian name, change your nationality, change your ethnicity and heritage, and go to Qatar or Bahrain to make more money. So our criteria for talking about heroes went wrong. We didn't set those original criteria. That somebody is not really out there to make a name or to be famous or a celebrity. So that you don't include heroism in musicians who are pursuing their career. We should have another area for awarding people with talent. You know, very highly talented people like inventors,
correct,
discoverers,
musicians,
people who do important like invent M-Pesa. These are talents. But to say that everybody who was pursuing a career, you can be one of the greatest doctors, like my friend Dr. Gekonyo, who resuscitated me, I think twice in Nairobi Hospital, when I've been brutalized and killed on the streets. But I'm saying, do you call him, is he taking any risk? Because to be a hero, you have to be there must be some persecution involved. Some risk, like Wangari Maathai, there was risk involved. She was not just a good botanist. There were many professors, perhaps who taught more students than her, who produced great botanists, agriculturists in Kenya. They were good. They should be rewarded and awarded for that talent. But can you call them heroes when in the classroom there was no risk involved? Wangari went out of the line to venture into an area which had risk to defend our environment.
Correct.
So not every father, all fathers are heroes to their sons. And all patients are doctors all doctors are heroes to their patients.
To the patients.
And all pastors are heroes to their members. So let's in Kenya define a hero, like today, Mashujaa Day, that we are defining, and I don't want to include myself, it's up to a judicial service, not service, a commission, a group to determine who is a hero in Kenya, because the field is crowded, because we cannot say when you run to Kenya and you are a good footballer, and you're hard in Europe, and you go and fight against Kenya in the Olympic, you are still a hero for Kenya. So we have to define who is a hero in reality. So anyway, having been done, let me say that for me, I was not a hero. I wanted to preach, and going into the pulpit was a tool of evangelism. Preaching and saying, let's dismantle one party state, because that's where I am. let's dismantle one party state on October 5, 1987. 6, I called for dismantling one state through KBC and for dismantling the Lancaster Constitution, so that the sale of buying something in Japan, they were in the headline on one side, and I'm here being on the headline, working with a flag there to flag them and honor them with my honor. So I went home. I didn't march in front of them. I read the Kichikuku and Mrs. Jenny Kiano, and others. I let them walk because they haven't set up the principles
of heroes and heroes.
Of heroism.
So for you, out of principle, you refused.
I refused. I went home.
You went home.
Even my daughter and my wife called me when they saw who is marching before whom. They called. I could have marched before Kibaki because I had not faulted his record. But those others were being faulted by you in the media.
For things that they had done wrong.
For things, and I was supposed to go now walk in front of them with a flag, like the military was walking, and everybody was walking, the police, everybody. They were doing that because it's a duty. But for me, I was going to walk on basis of principles, and I couldn't see myself walking on the basis of principle in front of people who are being questioned for being counter what I was fighting for.
Okay. Yeah. All right, let me come to Dr. Gikonyo, because you've dealt with many of these leaders, and the reason why I felt that it was also necessary to have you as one of the people we are celebrating is because you, at one time or the other, also put your life at risk. For instance, even with Reverend Timothy Njoya here, who probably you can tell us on that day after he was beaten, what is it that you had to contend with? What is it that you had to do to resuscitate him, that we have now him here to tell us a story?
First, let me agree with Reverend Joya that heroes are people who sacrifice their lives or sacrifice their time, their talent for the common good of society. That's what a hero is. A hero is not somebody who is just talented, because talents, unfortunately, sometimes are not even earned. They are God-given. The fact maybe that you can beat me in class or run faster than I can, or jump higher, or achieve things may just be that you are genetically favored by God. He gave you those talents so that you can do better than other people if you trained hard enough and put a lot of effort into it. But there are people who don't have much talent, but they still sacrifice for other people. And that, I think, is the nature of heroism that we should be recognizing, and we actually do recognize, because most of the heroes talk about are people who sacrifice their lives for the well-being of society. A good example here is Timothy Njoya, who, as you saw in that clip, could have died. And in fact, I remember when he arrived in hospital, he was actually half dead. He was unconscious, he had bled so much, he had lost so much blood. His shirt, which he was wearing that day, I think it's still in the museum.
Yes, it's still in my museum.
You donate to the museum. You donate the shirt to the museum. It was, we had no time even to undress. We just tore it off from his body in the emergency department, and put him in the ICU, resuscitated him, and gave him some fluids, pain reliever, medications, and got him better for him to fight another day, which is good. Those days, I must say, for those of us who are in medical practice, it's not just easy just to wake up and go and treat Mr. Gitonga or Timothy Njoya without fear. As you recall, those days in the 90s, there were no cell phones. And if you asked to go and see a detainee, for example, in a detention camp, like I was asked to go and requested by Honorable Charles Robia to go and see him in detention, you have to go there, and you are driven by state authorities, and you are alone, and it's at night, and you have no clue whether you'll come back or not.
You don't know what will happen after you've talked to him, especially because he's a detainee of the state.
People used to tell me, you go to that group,
chances are
that you might just disappear. Maybe because of youth, or because of naivety, or because of courage, or because of anything, you do it. And I remember when the family of Ken Matiba came to ask me if I could see their father, whether I was afraid, whether I would treat him. I said, yeah, I mean, for me, anybody who is unwell is my client.
As a doctor, it's your
client, and,
duty.
But I must tell you, I was very much discouraged by my colleagues who told me, you know, if you go this way, you too will follow your friends, you'll just disappear. But that's the sacrifice people make. You have to see your life is important, but go beyond there and do what duty calls you to do. And if there's any risk to it, you proceed with it. Yeah. That's why I call us heroes, people who sacrifice for society, denying themselves their common good for the good of the society. And that's what people like who are in the Mau Mau did, actually. If you imagine somebody in Nyeri, for example, in his little house, warm house with his family, and gets up and goes to the jungle to live in the forest for 3, 4, 5 years in the rain and in the cold and with wild animals, he must be very convinced of what he's doing. And he sacrifices comfort, just like people in the church who, nuns who come from Europe, they come and live in Samburu, other places, they sacrifice their comfort, they sacrifice their families for the sake of common good.
Okay.
This is what heroes are about.
All right. Reverend Timothy Njoya, let me come back to you. And again, just run us through that particular day, because there are many of us who may have seen that happening, but may not understand what was the passion behind you coming to government and a force that obviously could not tolerate whatever course that you are following.
You see, my journey, not confronting the government, but government confronting me. Because nobody sets out to be beaten or to be injured. You set out to do good.
Right.
And at the first step you make, you don't think anybody is going to fight. But the moment you go, as he was told, the moment he is called to go and answer a call, then the scare comes. That is contrary to the norm. It's not contrary to the official authority. So the first time was Labor Day, 1977. You know, because the time I was beaten, the first time I was in the ICU was in 1977 when I said that let's dismantle, Harambee. The first thing I called for dismantling in my life was Harambee, because I said it is contrary to Jesus Christ when he healed a woman who had a flow of blood. He told her, he didn't claim the credit. He told her, your faith has healed you. He affirmed that dignity. All doctors affirm patients' dignity. They say, I'm treating you, but God heals. And that's why they have chaplains in the hospital. They say, we can't heal you. Your body, we are helping and helping and assisting you to heal, and God will assist healing. Not, the doctor does not claim credit for healing anybody. So I'm saying, as I went and said that Harambee is stealing our independence, because Jesus told the person who was brought with a parrot, take up your parrot and walk, meaning affirming dignity. Go wash yourself in the sea and you will see. Jesus did everything to affirm human dignity. So I said, Harambee is depriving us dignities, making us beggars, a country of beggars and dependents. We are coffee farmers. Let's do this. On that evening, I was cut. I lost this finger and this one. I lost 3 fingers, and I was left dead on the floor of my house. And
that was in
Labor Day, 1997. Labor Day. I was brought in the same hospital, Nairobi. There were doctors there, Michael Wood, Dr. James, Dr. Sandy, or Sandy's did the surgery 6 times to restore these fingers to his friend, because they were restored. So I'm saying that was the first inflicted, not self-inflicted. For me, I was going to preach liberation, but that came from the outside. This is a reaction. Then 1997, at All Saints Cathedral. Again, I was taken to hospital, again, to be resuscitated by St. John's Ambulance. I don't know whether Red Cross or St. John's Ambulance, they compete for that because they were there. I don't know which one took me. But again, I was beaten and left on at All Saints Cathedral dead. So then the third time at the Parliament, going to say that the Constitution should be people-driven. We should have the sovereignty of the people, because that's what I started in 1986. Wajiko should have a say in how she is going to be ruled. And even when that failed after I left the hospital, the Parliament, which was made of IPGs, both the opposition and the government, was intent on denying Wajiro sovereignty. So I had to go to court. You know the Joya case. I had to go to court to have that the Parliament and the bombers ruled that they are wrong to take away the sovereignty of the people of Kenya. So I'm saying that I'm very happy that we finally, the Constitutional Court finally ruled that we do have the people ratify the Constitution through a referendum. And that to accept some of the things in the first 6 chapters of the Constitution would not be there because they have to do with the sovereignty of the people of Kenya. They were removed in the bombers because the government wanted to retain sovereignty.
Okay. Maybe I'll come back to the actual cause, but let me bring in Dr. Gekonyo here because Daktari, you've talked to most of these leaders as they were fighting for the liberation of Kenya. You've treated them. What is the one thing that you found common in them as you were? I mean, we have the likes of Mwai Kibaki, even after the accident that he had before he was sworn in. We have the likes, I mean, you've treated James Orengo. The list is endless. What is it that you find that runs in all these people that is common for the good of this country?
Most of those people that I've met in our country who have actually, we celebrate today as Chujas and heroes, are people who actually have sacrificed themselves for society. I remember, sitting and talking to Ken Matiba after he was released. And he was a man who was really convinced that change must come, not for himself, but for people. And when he told me one time that he will only contest any election in this country when there is a multi-party, and we were having dinner with him and David Owen in London, and David Owen, who was that time a Lord in the House of Lords, I told him, if you are waiting for that, Ken, then you will never take part in any election in Kenya. And Ken Matiba told David Owen, my friend, I promise you that multipartyism will come to Kenya. I personally didn't believe him. Actually, I said this is. But
how long ago was that? What year was that?
That was 1991.
1991.
After he was released from detention. Ken is an unfortunate man because he suffered ill health in detention. So did Charles Robia. People who stood up for other people and for no personal gain. And they suffered a lot in prison and detention. And those ailments carry on to today, which is unfortunate. But those are people who, as I say, had an internal conviction, more than other people. I remember Ken used to ask me, why don't you join us and in the movement? And I was a doctor, and I was telling myself I have 3 small children, and I started joining these people. I don't know why my kids were. I still had my own little concern about my family. But Ken was out there. And when you talk about the people who sacrifice, I always remember not only them, but their families. Because take, for example, even Dedan Kimathi or Charles Robia, Raila Odinga, other people sacrificed, and they've gone to detention or in place of suffering. They have left their wives and children unattended. And I remember growing up during the emergency, during the Mau Mau times. We talk about how the people who went to the forest suffered, but the women and children who were left behind in the villages suffered drastic loss of their fathers and parents, and they went through unattended periods with hunger, lack of school fees, and the rest. So the Chuja is out there, he's renowned, and people remember him. But that suffering transcends down to his family, his children, his wife who sits in the house when her husband is in detention, or the children don't go to school because their father was killed in the Mau Mau war, or disappeared in the forest, or detained. All those, in my view, are all Chujas. But these people are driven by a desire. It's almost religious, actually. It transcends beyond what you can understand as human ability and human capacity to accept things. But they are driven by internal conviction that things must be done. Ken Matiba still lives with it today. He's still convinced we must do the best, we must do the best. And it's good to see leaders who do this for other people, because I must say, I think despite what we say about government, we must say that the government tries very hard to do things for the people. There are bad people in government, good people in government, but there are people who also sacrifice a lot in leadership and who are Chujas, in my view.
And in the opposition as well.
Definitely. It's across parties. I've worked with all those people. I worked with Martin Shikuku. I worked with, I had the privilege of taking care of Raila's father. his Mzee Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. And I used to sit with him and talk to him at length at night. I had the privilege of spending time with Fred Kubai in his final days, and I would sit with him in his hospital bed, and you see people who really have some desire to see society changed and society go for the better. You may have the vision, it may not transcend, it may not become complete what you want. Because, you know, to drive a dream or to drive an agenda, you need support. You can't, even if you are very good, I mean, President Uhuru may want to do the best for this country, but he needs people to go along with him to make these things better. One individual may have the dream, but you need a team to push it together.
That supports you on that.
All
right, let me come to you, Reverend. And you did mention that yours was to stand up and preach liberation. Yours was to stand up and talk about things that would affect and have this country at a better place. Do you feel that that liberation has come?
It is a process which may take time to bear fruit, because when you plant, you don't just harvest. What is most interesting is how much everybody in Kenya is now a liberator. Even the chief justice, everyone, the president is saying he is fighting corruption. Whether they are achieving the goal, let's not judge them by we will judge them by the fruit at the end. But at the moment, everybody, the forum was that the nation was divided between those for corruption and those not for corruption, those for oppression and those oppressing. Now the nation is not divided at all. What it is that the question is the degree of authenticity, and whether we are all genuine or whether we want to fight for corruption. Raila can say that this one, Uhuru, is not genuine. Okay? Somebody say that Raila is not genuine because he was with the KANU. You know, when I was fighting, when I was the chair or the spokesman for the NCC, National Civil Society, NCA, NCC. I was fighting both the KANU and the opposition, having joined into one mega party to fight against the civil society, because they didn't want the civil society that was marinated to come, because they thought the government will be useless, it will not be effective. But let me put it this way. All of us now in Kenya are united in pretense, some of them, in pretext, others genuinely, for the values I was fighting for. So that if I were to fight, again, it's the same thing, people will think I'm in the opposition. You get me? Because everybody is fighting and everybody is spewing the same values as everybody else, even though they don't genuinely. People are in the church, politicians saying, praise the Lord, God is good, but they are simply diarrheaing words. They don't mean it. They want to win votes, not to praise God. All I'm saying is that when you see everybody is saying praise the Lord, even me, even atheists are saying praise the Lord because they want votes. Because under the church is the forum, the funerals are the forum.
So given that you're a champion and you said we should not call you hero, let the people decide, but I'm sure even looking at the tweets that are coming through, you are indeed viewed by Kenyans as a hero. Whether you accept it or not, that's their view, and I don't want to impose that on you. But when you look at what you were fighting for at that time, you've talked about liberation. Would you say we are there? Would you say that you're happy with the progress that we have made?
I feel I achieved by 1986 summon. Let's dismantle the one-party state and I go to pluralism. We have even not only pluralism in terms of the party, people see only political party, but they don't see the government, how we have diversified government, have distributed and devolved the powers of the presidency to 47 counties. People don't see how we have achieved a lot by having commissions, decide things like choose a chief justice, like you saw. Have commissions and groups recommend and choose heads of certain commissions. That was done by the president. So if you ask me, have we achieved institutional change? Of course, 100%. Maybe 110%, maybe overdone it. Because sometimes it doesn't know where power lies. You can see the press like the blame game. I'm doing my best, the judiciary is not doing. I'm doing my best, the parliamentary is not doing. The police is not doing.
I guess
And I'm saying, and that means we have achieved institutional transformation and change. And that one, I'm very happy, and I praise God for that. The other thing, that's institutional, philosophical change, which is the most important. Have we accepted the sovereignty of the people? Yes, you can see the Makoda people walking. They don't trust, they're not going to parliament. They are not going to anywhere. They are walking on the road. They are using the streets to dramatize their sovereignty, to say we are Kenyans too. And they walk all the way from Kilifi to Nairobi on the road to show that even we are human. Even God created us.
We too deserve to be on this planet.
To be given mosquito nets like everybody else. Now we go for the mosquito net. We are told we don't have ID, and we deserve to be treatment. We deserve this. So I'm saying, in terms of philosophical transformation, Kenya is ahead of every other country in the world. Where Kenya is the only country where now I do believe everyone believes that he is suffering or she is suffering. Everyone is talking about what is the haki yetu. You know, that phrase, who doesn't, even teachers talk of haki yetu. And they were very unhappy when I was demonstrating because the schools were being disrupted. The teachers, mark you, even when he is talking about Matiba, I like Matiba because he's so good and sees all the light. I went to Muranga to a wedding to talk to him, to Sheji, because he was a Minister of Education. And I said, let's have Montepati and destroy, not have Mulorogo even. And he was saying, no, Joya, that's wrong theology. And then he came, the same Kifaki said, you cannot cut a Mogomo tree with an web. Then he changed it because he saw the light. I'm saying, these people are kind of dumb at one time. They changed. That's why I'm there as a preacher to convert people.
So you're happy with the conversion you did?
To conversion. So all I'm trying to say that we have achieved on the philosophical front, a philosophical, conceptual shift. Kenya is ahead of every nation in the world in terms of that, in terms of the self-consciousness of that people are Kenyans. Who doesn't, we don't now, even though we talk of tribalism, nobody says I belong to this tribe in Kenya. We say, we cite the Constitution. If you are violated in Kenya, if you are denied anything, you cite the Constitution.
You go to the Constitution.
You go to the Constitution. So that in that, what you call, I'm calling a philosophical paradigm
Transformation,
shift.
yes.
Transformation. That we are number one in the world. The other one, institutional change, yes. Let's come to psychic change, psychological, psychic change. We are still sick. We are still a pathological society because we have dichotomy. We want those transformations, and yet we continue with the corruption as the order of the day. You see, I'm saying we still have to have a moral shift. We have to have a spiritual change, so that you don't come and say what is good and do what is bad. Jesus said, these people, he called you hypocrites. You worship me with your mouth, but your heart is far from me. And that's the thing that the church has a lot to do.
All right, let me come to Daktari because I know you, by virtue of the fact that you've been a doctor for this long, but also an entrepreneur by virtue of the fact that you've also founded the current hospital. So that, of course, has a business angle to it. When you look at where we are as a country, also after interacting with all these leaders and the cause that they were fighting for, to a point where they were fighting for their lives, literally, where are we as a country? Are you happy with where we are? And this psychic change that Reverend Njoya is talking about, how do we achieve that to a point where we stop looking at ourselves as those people and these people, but as one nation?
Well, Itonga, we have moved from darkness to light. We have moved from night to day. I mean, if you take yourself today as we are sitting here in 2016 and move back, say, not so long ago, like 1990, for example, we would not be sitting here talking the way we are talking. Freely. We'd be afraid. Those Moi days were dangerous. You had to look behind whenever you said something to see who is listening. And simple things were impossible. The country was going down. You had no free thought. I remember one reverend from Embu who was actually jailed for writing thoughts in his diary.
Imunde from
Reverend
Shuka.
Imunde
Imunde.
of the Presbyterian Church was jailed for having written, because his diary was found that he had written some things there that were thought to be against government.
Just thoughts.
Just thought. We have moved. This country has, with a new constitution, thanks to Mwai Kibaki, whom I refer to as the father of modern Kenya, the society has been transformed. Constitution is good. The laws are good. They can be made better. It's an ongoing process that will be improved. What is left, Gitonga, in my mind, is a moral revolution. The reason I don't take bribes, the reason I don't steal from my neighbor, from my patients, is not because I'm afraid I'll be caught. It's because I was taught by my Christian mother that these things are wrong to do. And you don't have to have a supervisor to make you do the right thing. Even if you are a leader in government, you should have a moral compass that tells you that these things should not be done. Not because the law says that, but because in your own inner self, you have a moral compass that tells you that those things should not be done that way. That is the fight we must fight against corruption, not at the level of putting people to jail, but of the level in people's hearts and minds. These things are in the realm of people like Timothy Joya here, the teachers of Sunday school, the teachers of nursery schools, parents. Let us instill in our future generation the fear of corruption, the fear of going against things that are against society. It's only that inner self, in my mind, that can help it. But for those of us who are not controlled by a moral compass, let us have a very stiff and very strict judicial system that punishes and penalizes people who go off the track and do the wrong things. It's only then that we will instill the fear in them. But as long as the judiciary and the legal system and courts and laws are very fluid on criminals and people who do the wrong things in society, people will continue to do that. And let us also remove from our children this respect and worship of people who have money, irrespective of how it has been gained. Because we have put in our society that as long as you have money that you can go into a Harambee and donate here and here, kids will emulate to be like you because you are flamboyant. I think that one of the biggest things Mr. Honorable Mwai Kibaki did for this country was to abolish Harambees. And I still strongly believe they should still be abolished. There are areas where we just go to show off our wealth, to influence young kids that the power of money can get you anywhere. This is wrong. Let us teach people the concept of hard work, the concept of going to school, the concept of being somebody, the concept of being a respectable, a moral person, a person who has values, a person who respects society, a person who controls himself against corruption, not because of the law, but because of the inner moral compass.
All right, Reverend Joya, one of the things that possibly robs this country of development is corruption. And it is, somebody once said that it's a matter of the heart. It's not really about legislation because we have enough laws against corruption, but it still seems to be perpetrated one way or the other. What do you think is a solution that this country needs for us to get rid of corruption once and for all?
I think we will not we will minimize. You know, this is my lifetime. I've only lived once, 75 years, and have 64 years to live. To reach my 139. But
yeah, and you're still looking very healthy. And I guess the Daktari here can also check here, can see he has his stethoscope.
Yes, he gives me a rating of 40-year-old person.
Which is
this
very
is my
good.
doctor.
Okay.
But let me put it this way. We are not trying to achieve 100% integrity because you cannot legislate for integrity or against corruption completely because it's a moral issue. It's a matter of the attitude, the society, how we are made. Even there was a survey where the young people said, I think more than 50%, that they would accept a bribery.
Oh, they don't care how wealthy you are, so long as you are.
So long as you are. I'm saying that attitude is created by the school because the schools are there not to create a good society. Like I was in America for 8 years. Education is education for democracy and human rights. John Dewey philosophy is the one guys the curriculum in America, that we educate people to become good citizens. There's nowhere in that curriculum you are training people for the job market. They don't consider their country a market. They consider it a nation. Even I know it's a market, it is by default. Normally, that society is considered to be a society. In Kenya, IBEA, Imperial Visas British Company, was chartered to rule Kenya, and we have not changed the charter until 2010. That Kenya was a market, not a nation. Our first constitution in Lancaster did not mention the word Kenya is a nation. It mentioned it's a state, meaning a citizen are not going for ruling, an instrument of the people, or can it be an instrument of the market? So in Kenya until 2010, our constitution was saying the state was an instrument of not of the people, because we are not sovereign, but of the market. So now we have geared our education for that we take to school, children to school, not to be human, not to be saved like me, not to be trained to love the Lord, to love one another, with a proper doctrine of what we call sobriety, self-check. We are training students for the job market, and there's not enough market in Kenya. So what is the deficit? What do you do with the deficit of the students? The deficit is made by corruption. That to get something in the market, I have to be corrupt. I must do everything, because I was not taught the ethics of how I get rich, how I get livelihood. So I think if you taught everybody that they are given by God, everybody has talents given by God, by which they can live on. Nobody is born without. Even animals. Why are animals? We have more animals in Kenya than any other country. How do they live? They don't have a market.
They are not corrupt.
But they are not corrupt. And they are still surviving, and some of them are very wealthy. Even when you are dying of jar, the animals in those areas which are not dying, they are still feeding for themselves, because our culture trained us to live in a certain way that it cannot be sustainable if there is one drought. We stopped living in the ways we could sustain ourselves even when there is a drought. So we became urbanized. We don't follow cows and camels. So we are going to die when there is a single drought, because there is no food in the urban area.
Right.
So let me put it this way. When we train people to be dependent on the market for survival, now not on their own talents, as we said, and their own gifts and their own land and everything, then we are about to meet the deficit of who cannot get something from the market to access it through corruption. So I'm saying we had introduced the morals of our education to train, like he said about Sunday school. I was very happy. In Sunday school, you are not trained to get a job. You are trained to be human, to love one another, to be patient, to say sorry when you are wrong. That's what I was trained when I was a child by my parents. And I was pinched when I didn't follow it. When you do something wrong, say sorry. When you want to something, say please. When you are given something, say thank you. Those are telling me to care for others so that I can be cared for. Not with a motive to be cared for. But when you care for others, and that's what the definition of a nation is. The nation definition is a family. A family is where everybody cares for everybody, and everybody is cared for by everybody. That's what in that value, that moral value of where we take care of everyone, we are taken care, went away, and we made this country a market for only competition and of the survival.
And financial competition for that matter.
Survival, financial, and survival of the fittest. What in your record, man eat man society.
Correct. Yes. Daktari, you've mentioned that for you, out of principle, you don't take bribes, but you've earned an honest living so far. And here you are today, a successful cardiologist who's running one of the biggest hospitals in this country. What is your secret? How have you managed to maintain that despite, because you'll hear some say, for you to even get documents run through, for you to even run an honest business, there has to be somewhere you'll have to give in. How have you managed to maintain that integrity?
No, there is enough honest business in the world. There's enough for all your needs, not for all your greed. Once you put a line that this is the way things are going to be done, you may not have the most money in the world, but you have enough money to live on. And people learn that who you are ukimfuata, hakuna kitu utapata, so don't even bother. So we continue on that way as our principle at the current hospital, that we run an honest business, that we get things done properly. We don't pay money to get favors from insurance companies or from corporates or corporations to get clients. No, we don't pay people to bring patients into the hospital. Just a straight line of clean, honest business. And you still get far. There is enough honest people in the world to support you. There are enough honest corporates and corporations and groups to support you. And I teach young doctors that there is enough honest business to live on. And that's how we've lived on. And that's how we go on. As you know, the current hospital from its institution, as we laid the foundation stone, which was blessed by Reverend George Wajau, our principle is to live godly values. And we actually do a lot of work on very low charges for mission hospitals, for Kikuyu, for St. Mary's, other hospitals, at very reduced fees, purely as a church relationship that we have had with other church hospitals for a long time. In fact, I view current hospital as just another of the Presbyterian church hospitals. But as I say, I want young people to know that there's enough money in honest business, and there's enough honest people around you to support you, and you don't have to be corrupt.
All right.
That I'm sure.
Reverend, we're now winding up because of time.
Let me just say something about that Dr. Ekonyo is not limited to hospital. That's why I know him, because his parameters are larger than medical, than the technical, or the mechanical, or whatever you call it. The other day, to extend the values he's talking about, he forced me, not literally almost forced me to go back to Kagumo, our old school. Yeah, he forced me to go and talk to students. To go and talk to students about those values. And he took me in his own vehicle. Also, he had made the school was free for us to talk the whole day. And he wanted me to transmit the values he's talking about, that there is honesty, there is integrity there. And this is his old school. Of course, he came to Kagumo after me.
All right.
So I'm saying, I just want to put that it's not only going outside the current hospital to Kikuyu and others to spread the same values, but he spreads them even to the younger generation, like being concerned with what is the shape of the mind of the future generation in this country.
And that's why I want you to come in now, and as we are closing, give us what would be your parting shot to this country as one of those people who have literally put their lives on the line for a better country. What message do you have on this Mashujaa Day to the country?
Yes, you have exactly gone to where we began. How do you define Mashujaa? People who put their life on the line. Their lives on the line. And I think that you don't need to go out to put your life on the line. You look for a cause, a calling by God, pursue it, and that cause must be selfless. You must look for ways which can benefit others, not you. And in that way, when you are serving people, you don't ask them for a bribery or for corruption because you want to good. They are good. You are not interested in your own good. You are interested in everybody's good. So I would say that to be a Mashujaa today, to be a Shujaa, you pursue good even when it is contrary to the norm where you are working. Wherever you are, whether you are a pupil, a worker, or whether you are a parent, pursue what you think is the ideal, what is according by God. And irrespective of whether the environment allows it or not, transform the environment to correspond to what you believe, if you have good values.
All right.
Yes.
Daktari, your closing comments?
I would like to tell everybody, when you go to bed at night, ask yourself only one question. What have I done for others today? And when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, what can I do for others today? Not always for yourself.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. That sounds or reminds me of Martin Luther King at one point where he said, ask not what the state can do for you, but what can you do for the state? Thank you very much, Reverend Timothy Njoya, who basically is one of those, he's refused to take the title of hero yet, but from what I'm seeing from many Kenyans, and let me just read some of the comments that are coming through, that video of Reverend Timothy Njoya is a great reminder of where this nation has come from. God bless you, sir. Dr. Gekonyo, thank you so much also for your time. and for treating most of our leaders over time. So definitely thank you also for honoring us with your presence this morning. That's where we're going to wind up State of the Nation this morning, and thank you for joining us on this Mashujaa Day. But do stay with us. We've got some news updates coming up. For KTN Home, it's going to change over to Life and Style. For those of us on KTN News, we've got some news updates coming up for you. Then later on, we've got Tech Central. Do stay with us right here on KTN News.